Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and whatever. Bonjour, ça va bien? I just answered a question that nobody even asked. A bit close to comfort. Right, so, sorry, we're just trying to get our bearings right here. We're recording on Zoom this week because we have a guest all the way from America again. This time, I think it's in Florida. I should say welcome back to the Reboot Your Thoughts podcast. We're now on season 4. This is going to be episode 2. Is it 2? Yes, episode 2. And we're going to be talking to this gentleman about how he worked his way through his own mental health journey, what he found helped him, and a few other questions. I've not actually spoke to him yet. I wanted to do the same as I done the last time, and I find out at the same time as you, although I'm finding it a wee bit earlier because I'm recording, but you know what I mean. I don't like to have too much knowledge before I have a guest on. I like to know what we're going to talk about, but not the full ins and outs. So, let's see what he's going to say. Hello. So, this is a guest I was telling you about. I just done a little introduction, but while I was waiting for you to come on, just to say that you were coming on to speak about your thing, but I've not asked you too many questions beforehand because I like to find out in the moment. I don't like to come with too much knowledge. I like to know as I'm going, and everybody can see my reaction as we go. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Benton Savage. I have written a book called Wrong Side Out, Madness Misdiagnosed. I was diagnosed as bipolar in 1998. Had a really rough go of it. Had some good years here and there, but was very non-compliant at times, of course. And then in 2020, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia and OCD. And the schizophrenia, I believe, is a little bit more treatable. The OCD is a real problem.
Yeah.
It can be very difficult because there's really no medication for it. I take Prozac.
That's it. It's almost the OCD side of it is almost like you have to retrain your brain not to do certain things, isn't it? Because my oldest son, for years, I always thought he had OCD. But now as he's getting older, now he's in adulthood, we're starting to think that it's potentially more ADHD rather than OCD, or potentially both. So we're waiting to kind of find out about that. So how did you feel when you found out that it might not be bipolar, it might be schizophrenia that you had?
Angry, actually, because it'd been 22 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I really was angry, very angry. I was not angry at that exact moment, but when I reflected on the last 22 years, I was very angry about it.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah, I was. I still kind of am, actually, but not as much.
I went through a full sort of my own mental health journey as well from my early 20s, and I had the whole depression and everything else. I also had an eating disorder really quite badly, and a few different things, and it took them a good maybe 5 years or more to even try and diagnose me with anything. Obviously the eating disorder, that was diagnosed in itself, but more the other side of the mental health, and it was bipolar they kept saying about me, and it was you'll go through all these steps to find out what it is, and they never ever done it. I don't know what the mental health team's like in America, but in the UK it's not great. And at one point I would have a psychiatrist, then a psychologist, and a community psychiatric nurse. The psychiatric nurse I would see every week, but the psychologist and psychiatrist, they would each be once a month. But every time you went for your next appointment, it was a different one that was there, so you were starting all over again.
Yes, over in the United States, or at least where in my program that I'm in, I haven't seen a psychiatrist in over a year. And I haven't seen a psychologist in over a year. I deal with a nurse practitioner. We have about a 5-minute meeting every 3 months.
Okay.
And we just kind of go over my meds. I've been on the same meds for 5 years. I'm doing in my opinion, well. I mean, you can always do better,
Yeah.
but it's more of a check-in. But I would, I could use a little bit more hands-on than that. But, you take
Well,
what you can
that's the
get in the
thing.
healthcare.
I mean, all any really want is the bare minimum, and you're not even getting that. If it's like a quick 5-minute check-in with somebody, you need at least a good half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour to check in with somebody that's going through a mental health. Whether it be a crisis or you're on a stable path, you still need to check in. You still need somebody to speak to on a regular basis.
I agree. I agree. But I would have to, it'd be more money out of my pocket, honestly.
Yeah.
And I could afford it. I just, I haven't done it. I'm not really big into the psychotherapy, not because I'm against it, just because it's just me. It's my problem. It's it's my problem.
Have you got to a point in your sort of life where you can tell if you're starting to go down, you're starting to sort of spiral or just even take a dip, where you might need some intervention?
Yes, I do now, but in the early days when I didn't see it coming at all. I mean,
It
I didn't
takes a
even
long
accept
time.
it. I really didn't ever. It took me. I really didn't accept my diagnosis at all. I mean, I did, but I didn't. I mean, I was very stubborn. Very stubborn. I was not a good patient. So, I mean, a lot of my problems were brought on by myself. And like I said, I wasn't very active in psychotherapy. So I believe my schizophrenia, maybe I wasn't open enough to tell them. I don't know, but I mean, I take some responsibility for the misdiagnosis and the problems.
I think we're a
But
bit
at the same
harsh on
time,
ourselves, though. We can be harsh on ourselves because when we're saying that we weren't as open, not saying that doctors or psychiatrists or anything like that should be psychic, but they do know the signs. They are taught the signs to look out for. So although we think that we're hiding certain things, we're actually trying to protect ourselves, and they should see the signs to an extent.
this is my opinion. They knew I was schizophrenic and were afraid to tell me. That's my honest opinion.
I don't know if I've told you this before, but I'm now a private counsellor. And it's part of the reason I went into that in the last, I think it was 2020, I really got into when after qualifying and everything. And part of the reason was because I didn't want anybody else to be treated or feel the way that I did when I was going through it. And I know the signs, and some of my clients, and they'll say to me, I'm doing okay just now. And I'm saying, but I can tell the signs. So if not, and I can guarantee within a week to 2 weeks, they're back on the phone saying, you're right, I'm starting to go down. Because you can see the different reactions in people.
Well, a big problem of mine has been alcohol abuse.
Okay.
And I'm doing well now, but throughout the last 25 years, in fact, I've got another book that I'm finishing. It's a diary of 365 days called The Stoic Alcoholic, where I write about my struggle with alcohol on a daily basis. And I wrote probably 100. I'll have probably 180 of the 365 days, but all it is me in dealing with alcohol. Actually, I wrote about how I'm getting bad on coffee now because I'm not drinking. I'm picked up another vice. But I write about my addictions, but mainly alcohol.
So one of the things that I know a lot of people struggle with when it comes to their sort of mental health journey is taking medication. How did you find that?
How did I what?
How did you find taking medication? Were you okay about it? And how were the people round about you taking medication? Because a lot of people frown upon it.
Yes, people do frown upon it. And my mother kind of blames me for my mental illness. And my mother is very smart and very astute and should know better. I don't think she wants to take responsibility for her genetic part in it. Honestly, I don't know. I've had this conversation with her. I'm not going to have it with her again, but she blames me. And that's frustrating because my mom's no idiot.
My mum was a nurse, not a mental health nurse, but she was a nurse. And a couple of times when I was really bad, and it would be things like, you've done this to yourself. And you're at the lowest depth, and then somebody kicks you even harder. And it's a hard one to take. I find a lot of people saying they hear all these conspiracy theories online about mental health medication and they just automatically believe it. Then people are too scared to take the medication or refuse to take it. So quite a few conversations I've had, it's been about, oh, why won't you take the medication? Give me a reason why. And not many people have an answer. And then they'll say things like, well, if you had a heart condition, would you take medication? Yeah, of course. If you had cancer, would you take the medication that was offered? Yes, of course. And I would go through a full list of things. So why won't you take mental health medication? Because that could potentially be keeping you alive as well. It's just something else.
I will tell you what my problem was. I did not accept it. And the reason was, like, my mom's been very active. She's been very proactive. I don't want to call her a bad mother in this. She just kind of blames it on me. But she's been like, take the medicine. And she used the diabetes analogy with me a lot. You know, if you had diabetes, you take medicine. But you could never prove to me that I had a mental health disorder other than what the psychiatrist said. If they could have given me a test that said, you know, show me some numbers and said, this is it, then I probably would have had a lot less trouble. I had a real problem with that.
But that is part of mental health because you're arguing with yourself. You're arguing with one side, one part of your brain's telling you to do X, the other one's saying Y. And then nobody's agreeing. So you're never going to, it takes a long time for you to realise, right, wait a minute, there is something going on here.
Yes, I've gotten better. I know when I'm kind of, in the last 5 years, I know, now that I'm really stabilized and really doing pretty well, I've got things going on pretty well. I know when I'm kind of getting off my rocker a little bit and I take a step back. I can recognize it now, but it's always a risk. I mean, if I mess around with alcohol, I mean, that's the worst thing you can do. Well, alcohol is not the worst, but those kind of things are the worst thing you can do if you're on those kind of drugs, if you're on those kind of medications. It'll really screw you up.
I find certain times of the year can be a trigger for me, but also there'll be times where I'm so busy. I think I've taken my medication, but I haven't. And then after a few days, you can start feeling yourself going down. After a week to 10 days, you can start hallucinating and different things are happening. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. And you check your medication, that's why.
Yes, I can actually talk with you about a couple things on that. One of which, once I go about 2 weeks without my medication or a month, you're not going to get me back on that medication very easily at all. I am off. I am really adamant. I mean, I have been held down in psychiatric hospitals and had injections in my butt for a month and refused to take medication. They're like, you're not leaving until you take the medication.
That's it. They're going to get into you.
I didn't care. And finally, I was like, after about a month, it really was about a month. And finally, I was like, okay, I got to leave here sometime. I can't stay here for the rest of my life. And they were going to keep me there I don't know if they were going to keep me there for a long time.
Well, that's it. At some point, your brain realizes that, right, okay, I'm fighting a lost cause here. It's a losing battle. I'm never going to win this. So you just kind of have to say, right, okay, and hold your hands up and say, right, I'll do it.
I was very, very stubborn about that. I once spent 7 days in jail because I wouldn't take my medication. And all I had to do was take the medication. They would let me walk out. And I refused for a week. And they finally let me out. And
I don't think a lot of people who haven't experienced or haven't witnessed anybody with any kind of mental health struggles, they don't realise how much your life it affects and the different moods that you can get, but also like that, getting into trouble. It's not your nature potentially to get into trouble, but you've missed your medication, your brain's telling you to do all these different things,
right.
And then you end up wherever you end up.
The other thing I was going to say about the medication, if I miss a dose, like, you know, everybody misses a dose. Sometimes you think you took it. You know, I mean, I try to take mine in the morning, and you know, if I don't, for some reason, don't take it in the morning, I'm going to assume I did because I don't remember taking my medicine usually.
Yeah, I'm the same.
But I will sometimes, by the second day, I will definitely know something's off. I mean, I will feel it. I won't feel bad. I won't be making bad decisions. I'll just be a little anxious.
But you just know there's something.
Something's up, and I can look back and I can go, yep, And sometimes, and actually, I can sometimes feel about 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm starting to feel a little edgy. That might be in my head. I'll tell you what helps me on the medication.
Sorry,
Is
you
that
froze
also,
there for a second.
no, you're freezing a little bit too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all
I
right.
think heartburn at the same time. So if I don't take my Prilosec, my heartburn.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, what were you saying about your medication there?
I also take Prilosec. This is off the subject, but I also take Prilosec for my heartburn.
Okay.
So if I don't take my Prilosec, and I take it at the same time I take my medication, I take all my psychiatric meds at one time. So I don't have to deal with the one in the morning,
Yeah.
one at night. I did for years. I had to do that. Now it's just one big helping. And I take all my drugs at the same time, including Prilosec. So, but if I don't take my Prilosec, my heartburn very well might act up that day. I mean, it's very sensitive. It's not nearly as catastrophic as mental illness, but it's just as sensitive. I can kind of sense it when I don't take it. So I do have a little bit of a warning sign.
Yeah.
That reminds me, like, maybe you didn't take it.
Mm-hmm. So you said that you wrote a book. When did you first kind of get into writing, and did it help you more than sort of therapy?
Well, I'll tell you the book is called Wrong Side Out: Madness Misdiagnosed. I wrote this book in 2009 under the title Wrong Side Out: The Bipolar Experience. Tried to get it published with traditional publishers in the, send them off to agents, tried everything I could. I was really high on the book. Got very little traction, no real traction. I just gave up on it for 10 years. And then when I got diagnosed with schizophrenia 10 years later, roughly, I was like, maybe I need to reread this book. And I read it and I gave it to one of my other friends who is bipolar. And he's like, Ben, you got to try to get this published. It's really phenomenal. The insight you have into what you're thinking and why your behavior is so absurd. I try to talk about what's going on in my head, why I'm doing this ridiculous behavior. Why am I not taking my medicine? Why am I not returning my mom's phone calls? That kind of thing. And they're usually more extreme than that, but those are just two examples that popped off the top of my head. I really go in the head. I mean, at one point I thought I could run across I was living in California. I thought I could run across the country just like Forrest Gump.
I was just about to say, like, run, Forrest, run.
Yeah, I really thought that. And I really ran about a mile. And then I didn't make it. But it was a really bad situation. But that's an extreme example. That's 25 years ago. That's 1999. Mm-hmm. I had another 20 years of those kind of things. That was a little much. That was just what I can laugh at. But some of them you don't laugh at as much.
No, definitely not. So in 2019, did the book get published at that point? No,
I wrote it in 2009. Did not get published. I sat on it for 10 years, did nothing with it. I was still writing other books.
Okay.
Novels, short stories, little poetry, whatever. And I got away from it. And like I said, I got a couple people read the book kind of randomly. And they were like, Benton, they'd read my other stuff. Like, this is by far the best thing you've written. Mm-hmm. And I'm a pretty decent writer in its own right, in my opinion, but they were like, this is really outstanding. You really need to pursue this. And then it took me about a year or two to get not the guts, but it's hard to put this book out there because it is, people, my close friends, and not even my close friends, my distant friends know got mental health issues. But, if this book does well, and I think it will, strangers are going to meet me knowing.
Leaving yourself bare, aren't you? You're just leaving yourself bare. So for everybody to see every single part of you in this book.
Yes, it's wide open. I mean, this is gross, but this is how honest I was. I was in the mental hospital, and I, for some reason, felt the inclination to hold my urine for as long as I could until I peed. I did it for like 24, 30 hours. Then I peed on myself right there in the psychiatric hospital. And they're like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I just did it. And I write about that kind of stuff, really embarrassing stuff. I mean, people are like, that was probably pretty hard to write. And I was like, it wasn't that hard to write because it was kind of therapeutic just to process what I had done. But it was hard to take the next step. And the second time, this time around when I'm doing a little bit better, back in 2009, I didn't have much going on.
Yeah.
I was really hoping that book would get me started, and it didn't. So I had to go on other courses. But it was harder to get it published than actually write. Writing is very therapeutic. I think it's especially for mental health,
Yeah.
because you can really analyze your behavior, take a hard look at your behavior from us, take a step back.
100%. It's one of the things that I tell most of my clients to do, not particularly write books or poems, maybe poems, but just write down your thoughts.
Journaling.
Write them down and get them out your head, get everything out your head. Because I've been wanting to do it for a long time. I've started writing a book, but I think I've started writing this one particular book about 5 different times, because it is, again, it's about my past, and it's about me, and it's about how I've been treated by different people, if that makes sense, and how I came to protect. I may have mental health struggles anyway, but this is where I see it all start stemming from. But it can be hard to write your inner, deeper thoughts.
Well, I'll tell you, I was really determined when I wrote it in 2009. Now, I did add some on. I did add the last 10 years on to round out the misdiagnosis. But when I wrote it, I was really frustrated because I just gotten out of the hospital. People are always telling me, you don't need to take medicine. I was living in New York City, bunch of know-it-alls. And they're telling me, you don't need to take medication. You're just being weak. And that was about the time A Beautiful Mind came out. I hate that movie. I hate the movie A Beautiful Mind because it implies that this guy can live a normal life without medication. And I don't believe he did. And in fact, he lived a miserable life, even if he did live it without medication. But they make it out like he's a beautiful mind. His mind was not beautiful, in my opinion. And it's really frustrating because that came out about the time I was diagnosed. People like, you need to watch.
Go back.
Yes. But you believe people.
Sometimes, a lot of the time, it's people that don't have any knowledge. They've never trained in anything to do with mental health. They've also never experienced it themselves, but they always have the answer. They always know better.
Yes,
and
there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah, very many people, very, very many. And it's a bit like the men can't cry, men can't struggle, men can't this, men can't that. And that's one of the things I wanted to try and eradicate as much as possible through this podcast, is that men can open up and still be what people see as a manly man. Men can cry, men can still have emotion, men can still struggle, men can feel like a failure but still pick themselves back up the exact same way as women can. It doesn't make anybody less of a human, less of a person, or less of a man or woman just because you've got a blip in your life at that particular time.
Speaking of memoirs and speaking of women and men and the differences in how they deal with mental illness, most, if not all, I can't think of a memoir off the top of my head. I've read quite a few on mental illness, mainly bipolar, because that's when I was writing it. I was bipolar. But most of them are written by women. There's not many memoirs about mental illness written by men. I'm sure you've read Kay Redfield Jamison's Unquiet Mind. I hope you have.
Yeah, I've got a whole stack of books, and I don't know how many are by men. But, so when did you start writing poetry first before you started writing a novel, or?
When I started doing it back in 1998, and I was writing about my mental illness, but I was such a bad writer in 1998, and I was really, really bad off mentally. I was just getting it. I was almost comatose trying to writing. It was a terrible book. My mom saved it. And, but I was writing about my mental illness from the start. And then I did that for about 3 or 4 years, just kind of writing about my mental illness. And then I got into writing regular novels and short stories. But I got started for sure focused on the mental health. And actually, my editor said it's obvious that when she'd read a lot of my stuff, and she had not read my memoir because I'd been working with her for 5 years. I hadn't even mentioned this memoir for her. I showed her my fiction. When I gave it to her, she was the first one to say, "Ben, this is much better than anything you've ever written." And obviously, your storytelling as a fiction writer came out in your memoir. It's just like it really showed through. It's a very, as far as she was concerned, a very well-written memoir, or at least what she expected out of me.
Yeah. So what do you prefer, writing poetry or
My
prose?
poetry is a little bit different. I published a book in 2024 called Fortune Cookies, and it actually went up to #1 on new poetry on Amazon, I guess in the United States, and for a couple of days. And but what that was it was 100 sayings, basically 100 fortune cookies. They're better than the fortune cookies that you're going to find in your Chinese restaurant,
Yeah.
but they're fortune cookie oriented. And how I got started on that was this is called micro. I write micro poetry or Instagram poetry if you're familiar with it. It's a really short poetry. I
Yep,
can't
yep.
write Emily Dickinson or anything like that. Nothing near it. But I can write these kind of one-liners, kind of one-liners, kind of jokes, kind of just kind of thoughtful things, little fortune
Yeah.
cookies. And I was publishing them about 5 times a week on Instagram, just not getting a whole lot of traction. And then somebody called me out of the blue. It's like, I think I've been following you for a while. I think you're pretty good. I think we could maybe make a book of fortune cookies. I'd never thought of fortune cookies. He thought of it, and then we went with it. And it turned out pretty well, yes. I was pleased with it.
So
Yes.
how many books have you got published now?
I've got 4 published. I did publish a fictional account back in 2011, before I wrote this memoir. I wrote a fictional account of somebody with mental illness set in New York City back in around 2006 or 2007. But it was fiction, but a lot of it was drawn from what I had experienced. A lot of it was set in a mental hospital, which I'd had ample experience. I could draw on from all kinds of experiences from that. And it was good, but it was not professionally written. I didn't have an editor. I just published it, kind of got it out there, and kind of let it go for a few years. And it's not even in publication anymore, I don't think. I think you can buy it on eBay.
Okay.
But then I published Fortune Cookies in 2024, and then I published Free and Satisfied, which is a novel. I published it in April of last year. And it's a novel about a biracial relationship between a white man and a black woman. And it's set in Memphis, Tennessee. And it's kind of I would consider it a coming of age story. And it's gotten some traction. And then Wrong Side Out just came out December 29th. And then the next book I'm going to finish February 4th because I started writing it February 4th of last year. I originally wrote is going to be called The Stoic Alcoholic, 366 Days, the first 366 days of sobriety. Well, I made it about 90 days. And then, and I was really pleased. 90 days was really good. That's really solid. But
it's amazing.
I quit writing. I got cocky and I quit writing. Then I went off through my fender. And then I caught back up. I'm writing again. But I'm going to title it this time, The Stoic Alcoholic, How I came to terms with my shame and pain. Because I'm never going to say I'm not a drinker again.
You can't. That's the thing. You can't. When I had my eating disorder, I was addicted to certain things that helped along the way, which I don't like to give too much information about because I don't like to give people ideas if they're maybe struggling. So I do know that addiction is addiction for the rest of your life. Also, I had an uncle who was actually like a second dad to me. He was an alcoholic our whole life until he passed away. And he stopped many times, but there was one time and the whole family were so angry because the doctor had said, obviously, when he was in hospital, he was told he could never drink again because he could potentially die. He went to go and visit his own doctor, his GP, one day, and he said, well, you could have the occasional can of Guinness. Well, that was him. Doctors gave me permission. Then they start with Guinness.
Pausing.
Oh.
Yeah, the last 15 seconds or so has been a pause.
So he went to his GP. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. He went to his GP. His GP said to him, well, you could have the odd can of Guinness. His eyes lit up. He was like, oh, I can have the Guinness. The Guinness then goes to cider. The cider then goes to vodka. And that's it. The ball's rolling again.
Yeah. All you need is a little window of hope. I mean, I had one doctor actually say, you are not, he didn't think I was mentally ill. I was in a terrible situation, went to a doctor and he said, I don't think you are mentally. I think you're just misunderstood. I carried that torch for about 5 years. You know, I had
You
one
hold on to
believer.
it.
Oh, I held on to it. I held on to it for years. One believer out of about a million not. And I believe the one guy who, for whatever reason, thought I was okay.
Yeah.
And
And if
I held on to that one.
I mean, are any is actually okay? Even people that don't have mental health struggles, everybody's got something, whether it be their low confidence or whether it be they can't do something that somebody else can do or whatever it is, or anger issues, whatever. We've all got something, and none of us are ever going to be perfect. And
I
we
agree with that.
just, as long as we admit it to ourselves, it makes life a bit easier.
Well, that's what, wise people say. Everybody's got something, and everybody does. I remember one of my bosses, about the time he fired me, and he was kind of a bigger guy, and he's like, I have to deal with my overeating. He's like, I just, that was his thing. He's like, that's my thing. He was a very healthy guy, exercised every day, successful, but he said he could knock out 12 donuts, in a sitting, no problem. Just that kind of eater. And, he's like, I have to struggle with it. Now, it's a little different struggle than what I'm dealing with, but it was a big struggle for him.
But it was his struggle.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure it's a lifetime struggle for him. I mean, he did. And in fact, in that conversation, he said his mother dealt with the same thing.
And that's it. A lot of these traits can be learned behaviour. So like the eating thing,
Yes.
overeating, eating too much sugar, not eating the healthy foods, only eating healthy foods, not eating meat, only eating meat. All these things can be learned behaviour. And it's sometimes it's the break the cycle, isn't it?
I believe nutrition, eating well, is a very important part of mental health. I really do believe that. If you're living, I don't know. I mean, I cook most of my meals. I probably eat out of my 14 meals, lunch and dinner. I probably eat 12 of them. And I cook myself, and there's a little preparation. Some are easier than others, but I cook. I don't, I got plenty of friends that live on Mountain Dew and McDonald's. That's the way they look. That's the way they roll. I'm like, I don't see how you do it.
I've got a son who's autistic, who would love that diet of Mountain Dew and McDonald's, but he doesn't get away with it.
Right. I've got a guy he's a friend of mine. He's kind of living with me right now, and he lives on the Mountain Dew and basically a convenience store diet.
Well, that's the thing. It's convenient, isn't it? It's easy because then you don't have to think. You don't actually have to prepare. You don't have to stand and cook or chop or go for a grocery shop or whatever it may be. So it's just pure convenience, and I suppose to an extent laziness.
It's laziness for sure, or incompetence. A lot of people just don't know how to cook. Like, I ate pretty much junk until I was about 30. And I finally had a roommate, somebody lived with me for about 3 months, who was a sous chef in New York City. And he said, we cooked a meal 3 or 4 times a week. And after a couple months, I'm not an expert chef now, but I can do, I'm better than Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
And
there is some people out there who will struggle to cook. They maybe have reasons that they can't or whatever else, but you do have all these different prep places that can bring nutritional food to you. But the problem is they're so expensive that your everyday person can't really afford them.
Yes. Well, affordability is definitely an issue for many mental health people.
Yeah.
Because so many of us can't work.
Exactly.
Or really can't do much, and that, and obviously, unless you come from family money, you are on the struggle. You are going to struggle because you're going to do, I don't know how they do it in Europe, but it's SSI here. And then even if you want to work, you can only work a certain amount of hours. They want, in the United States system's funny. They kind of try to throw you on this SSI. They try to throw you under the government control, even if you don't really want it. They'll really push on, like, no, I want to work. I just can't work right now.
It's also about getting an understanding employer.
Yes.
So that was one of the reasons why I started my first business in 2013, roughly around about then, because my doctor was trying to get me sectioned at the time, and I had said because I was suicidal and whatever else, and I did say the one thing not to do is put me in a hospital, because I will come out in a wooden box, because it take me away from my boys or whatever else, because my boys were the only thing I was living for at the time. And they only have me. I'm a single parent. Then once I started to come out of that, I knew, because I have so many blips throughout the years previous, I knew I could never work for another employer. Plus, we just found out my son was autistic, and I thought, between him and me going crazy and never knowing what day to day is going to be like, I'm basically unemployable. So then I started a sort of printing business, printing clothing, making gifts and all these sort of things. Then I got arthritis and fibromyalgia. So then I couldn't do that anymore. And that was what kind of spurred me on to train in being a counsellor, because I can use my mouth. Even if I can't use any other part of my body, my mouth will always be able to talk.
Yeah. Well, that's the situation I found myself in after years of just spotty employment, and even like a year or two of no employment. You become unemployable.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
and you got to explain why you didn't work for those years. How did you support yourself? What were you doing? I could always say I was writing, but that doesn't carry a lot of weight in a job interview.
It's also quite invasive into somebody's personal life, which yes. I think, yes, employers do need to know some things, but they don't have to give you a chance. Even if they say, well, we'll give you a trial, and if you survive the trial, then yeah, we'll take you on. And it'll be like every 6 months we need to check in and make sure everything's okay, whatever it may be, but they don't have to be so invasive into somebody's personal background.
Yes, it's tough. I've always been open about my mental health, for better or for worse. I should have been a lot quieter about it, in my opinion, because you do get judged. I just said, the hell with it. I'm Benton Savage. I'm Benton Savage. You know who I am. I was fine before that. I was fine when I was 20 years old. At 25, I went nuts. And, you know who I am. And I took it head on. I was very open about it, not broadcasting it, but open. And I kind of have a little bit of regrets with that in the early days. I should have kept it a little bit more to myself, because people do judge you. Even to this day, people judge you.
That was one thing I was always scared of, is being judged and being excluded, even more so than what I already felt. So it probably took me a good 20 plus years before I really opened up to just anybody outside my family and my very, very close circle.
Well, I feel like, as far as me coming out, I didn't feel like this back in 1998, but when I wrote this book in 2009 and finished it last year, and wrote some more, but I felt like it's important for me to get my story out there, so people don't go through the struggles I have. I'm not that nice of a person, but I don't want anybody to go through my stuff. Man, my life was miserable there for 15 years. It was so preventable if I'd gotten the proper diagnosis, which I believe they knew. But if I'd taken my medication, even on the wrong diagnosis, I would have done a lot better.
It's also a very lonely time as well, because you feel as if in your head, it's just you. You've only got you. Nobody else feels this way. Nobody else is going through this, and nobody else understands, and you can't speak to anybody about it. So you feel as if you have to do everything to fix yourself, but you can't fix yourself because you don't have the strength. And it's just that losing battle for the first however long. Everybody's going to be different.
Well, I think what was I going to say? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was your question?
We were talking about it being so lonely when you are struggling.
Yes. Yes, I mean, I've isolated myself over the last 20 years, and back in New York City, I was seeing psychologists was like, "Are you glamorizing this maintain relationships or anything like that?"
No, I've really struggled with relationships.
Certainly not romantic relationships.
No.
I've had a couple. I did have a 5-year stint where the girl was so understanding. I just can't believe I left her. But I mean, most people aren't going to put up with that stuff.
I also think there's a brick wall there. For me personally, anyway, there was always a brick wall, and it was the fear of anybody starting to come through that wall and actually getting to know what was really going on, because that might scare them away. So instead of them getting to that point, I would push them away, and I'd be like, no, that's okay. No, I'd rather be on my own.
The one thing I hate about being open about being schizophrenic or bipolar or whatever is that if you have any kind of odd behavior, they're gonna go, oh, that's a schizophrenia. And you're like, maybe a little, but it's me. This is just a little. I'm just
Yep.
a little off today.
I
Give me a
had to
break.
cut off somebody who I classed as my best friend from when we were teenagers right up until late 30s. I had to cut her off because I just wasn't in my best mood, I suppose, but I also wasn't spiraling. And she kept saying, oh, I think your mental health's struggling. I think you need to go and see the doctor. And it was constant every single day. And it didn't matter how many times me or my mum would say, my mental health's fine. No, I think you need to go to a doctor. I think your mental health's struggling. And it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it is frustrating because once you tell somebody that, I mean, they look at you differently. There's no way around it. And it's not their fault necessarily. They don't understand that, especially in my situation. I mean, there's a lot of people who have a really, really struggle. I'm doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not perfect by any stretch. I struggle, but I'm doing pretty well. I can function now. I mean, I have a job. I got my own business, and it does okay. And I'm writing. That took me 15 or 20 years to get to that point.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. If you think back to the 1990s to now, can you see the difference from then to now of how you deal with things?
Yeah, when I started off on lithium, I was so helpless. My problem solving became so poor. I couldn't concentrate. My concentration got really bad at times throughout those 20 years where I just couldn't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, putting on taking a shower was a big deal.
Yep.
And, I'd go 4 or 5 days without taking a shower. And, you just can't do anything.
You don't care.
And you just don't care. And, I've written a lot about this kind of behavior in this book I'm writing right now, The Stoic Alcoholic, which is basically a diary. Every day I write that day and I don't go back and change it. Actually told my editor today I'm going to finish it February 4th. He's like, well, we'll get the editor. I was like, it's kind of a diary. I think the editing should be very minimal.
Yeah, because it's your personal inner thoughts.
Yeah, I don't want this edited down. I don't want you to stick this through ChatGPT and tell me what's going on. This is my personal thoughts. It's a diary. I mean, it's going to be rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's
exactly. It's got to be your words because it's your diary, so it's got to be your words.
Yes.
Yes. Jordan, on you go.
I was just thinking about, I always think, people do judge you. Like, I mean, when you tell somebody that you've become a friend, that you have a friendship, that you make a friendship with naturally, when you tell them that you are mentally ill, I mean, some people don't ever tell.
No, exactly.
I mean, you got to tell eventually, but I guess it goes far enough. But, people hold it. Some people hold it back as long as they can.
100%. But I do think it's more openly spoken about now than what it was 20, 30 years ago. I mean, I don't ever remember really when I was young, anybody speaking about mental health. So when I was young, it was more, everybody was talking about being gay and all this, because that was the new thing that everybody was talking about. And then I don't think it was till, I'm going to say 10, 15 years even ago, as little as that, before anybody really started talking about mental health. Unless you already knew about it through somebody in your life, you didn't hear about it until recent years.
I will add this to my mental health journey, and I didn't even put this in the book for some reason, but I was seeing a psychiatrist when I was 8 years old and was taking Mellaril from the time I was 8. Are you familiar with Mellaril? It was the first antipsychotic drug, and it had a lot of side effects, but
that's right.
It was the first one. And I took it a lot. I remember I sunburned really easy and all kinds of stuff. And, there are all kinds of side effects, but it did kind of help me. But I didn't like it then either. I didn't like taking the meds when I was 10 years old either. And then I went off to boarding school, and I don't remember this, but my parents tell me before I went off to boarding school, I said, I don't want to go to school with these meds. I do not want people to know I'm taking meds at boarding, because you can't hide it at boarding school. No. I mean, there's no way around it. And I didn't. And I didn't take meds all through high school. I did well, but that's when I started abusing alcohol. And it was just pretty pretty much, I was a straight A student my freshman year of high school, and it was, B's, just steady improvement until I graduated college with about a 2.3,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a very good, and I'm fairly intelligent. I could have done better. I just
I'm the
quit.
same.
Yeah.
My mum always says that, like, I don't use, in her words, I don't use the brains that I've got to the full potential. But I've just got to the point in my book where I'm writing about, I mean, literally, I was only 13 when I started drinking alcohol. I was already
Mm-hmm.
smoking by the time I was 11, going on 12.
Mm-hmm.
All these different things. And you do wonder if it could have been picked up back then. Or again, was that just something that I was going to go through anyway, and the mental health didn't come till later on? We'll never know, but it's hard when you sit and think, could this have been picked up and potentially saved some traumas from happening?
Mm-hmm. I can't believe the first time anybody mentioned OCD to me was in 2020. I'd written 2 books at this point. That
Mm-hmm.
if you read the books, OCD is littered all over the place. It's obvious. How nobody said you have OCD, I have no idea. Because the
Yep.
guy who diagnosed me said, you have extreme OCD.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be fine, but you've got a bad case. And I was like, and when I thought about it, I sat there for, over the next few months, I was like, this has been so obvious. This is so obvious for 20 years.
I think as well, because people have a perception of what OCD is, and they think it's you clean too much, or you're just so fascinated on one thing, overly fascinated on it. They don't realise that it can be a whole variety of different things. It doesn't have to be you're tidying your house 24/7. It doesn't have to be you're counting the switches, or you're checking how many times you've locked your door, or whatever else. It's much bigger than what people think it is.
Like, I have a kind of a relative that had his brother has OCD, and there's the light switches and all these rituals. I didn't have rituals. What I do, and I still do it sometimes, math equations in my head all day long. I mean, addresses, license plates, phone numbers. I'm crunching the number, trying to make sense of them, trying to see a pattern, kind of like that guy in A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah.
He's seen patterns everywhere, and that's kind of how. And I still have a problem. I still see patterns. My mom's like, Benton, life's not a game necessarily, or relationships aren't a game. You got to feel emotions.
Yeah.
And it's like you try to break it down into a mathematical equation. And she's got a little truth to it.
She has, but then try being in the brain that you've got that can't control that to an extent. You've not learned as yet how to slow that down and kind of minimise how many times a day you do that, or how often, or when you do it, or why you're doing it. It's you having to regulate yourself and coming to terms with how do I change these? How can I change it? And it might be that you can't, but it could be that you just do it less often.
Yes, less often. You get those urges. I do, and I get these urges where I just got to do it. I just got to do it. I mean, it's going to, I have this philosophy. I had this philosophy. I used to joke about it. If you know you're going to do it someday, go ahead and get it over with. And that's a bad philosophy, because you can hold off and maybe tomorrow you'll feel that way. But I get those things. It can be food. It could be alcohol back in the day. It could be anything. Food. I can really get going. And my weight, I've had a 70-pound weight difference in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I can really go. I'm on the downside right now, which is just as dangerous for me, because I get obsessed with being, not counting calories, but not eating sugar.
I'm the same. So I obviously told you I had a really bad eating disorder, and it went on and off for like 15 years or so. But now I'm at the other side of it, where I've put on quite a bit of weight. But I have the fear of, if I try and lose weight, am I going to go too far?
Yes.
And it's trying to tell your brain that either stay where you are and just embrace how you look, or control. And I don't know that I'm at a point where I could control it, because I know that it just takes one thing to happen where I'll go far too far. And it's happened to me so many times. And trying to explain that even to a doctor who are like, but you've been okay for X amount of years. That's okay saying that until I start to try and lose weight again. And then I know it's that vicious cycle where it's almost like a rabbit in headlights.
I'm not anorexic. I don't think I'm anorexic, but I have gone through periods where I have definitely lived like an anorexic. And it's a control thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
100% is.
It's all control thing. It's all control. And, and when I start losing weight, I'm like, I never see it coming when I lose the weight, but when I get really light, I'm really not in a good place because I'm really trying to control everything in my life to the extent that it's unhealthy. It's not fun for me. It's not fun for the people around me. It's not fun for anybody.
Your mood changes. You're so fatigued. There's not much in there, but you're trying to still live a normal life. You're still trying to live every day the way you would, but you don't have the energy. You don't have the sustenance. There's nothing to help you keep going because you've not taken any energy in for you to then burn it back off again.
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, if you don't eat enough, you're going to have some problems there. But I've done crazy thing. I ate only green beans for 4 months, or not, excuse me, 40 days. Only green beans. I can't remember why I did it. Some reason I did it. Only green beans. Another time I only ate eggs for a month. And I ended up in the hospital on that one, catatonic, because my potassium levels got so low I could not move.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I've done these. That's two of the more. There's two examples that pop up. I've done 3 or 4 others.
Yeah.
I've drank Cokes. I'm very obsessive about these kind of things, and I'm a lot better now. But it was very helpful for somebody to finally say you are OCD, and that made my behavior make a lot more sense to me. This is actually an ailment. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you've now got your own business as well as writing. So with you having your OCD and everything, are you able to still kind of process your everyday with your business and writing without anything kind of affecting it?
That is very funny because I'm promoting 2 books right now, including Wrong Side Out and Free and Satisfied, which I mentioned earlier. I'm writing a book and I'm writing The Stoic Alcoholic. So I've got 4 books on my mind plus my business. Yes, it is very hard to transfer. What I try to do is exercise, do something, then exercise and just scramble the brain. Eat a meal, take a shower, just go do an errand, something just to start over, because I cannot go from this conversation to real estate very easily.
So you've got all that going on in your brain. Are you able to sleep at night? Are you managing to get enough sleep?
I sleep about 4 hours a night. I'm really bad. I slept 5.5 hours last night. And that was like probably the most in 6 weeks, 2 months. I haven't had 7 hours of sleep in years. And they're never uninterrupted. And it's really rough. And and people are like, why don't you just go back to sleep? Like, why don't I do anything? Why doesn't I do anything I do?
It's easy to say just go back to sleep, but it's not that easy to do. Because I'm the same. I wake up about 5 times a night. I don't get a full night's sleep, but and then once you're awake, you're awake.
Yeah.
Like when you're
I'm a morning person. I'm a morning person. I like to get up at 4, 5, 6, 4 or 5. I was up at 4:30 today. That's pretty late. I went to bed at 10, got up at 4:30. So I guess 5, 6.5 hours maybe. But I like to get up early because I feel like I'm much more effective between 4 and 8 in the morning than I'm going to be from 8 to 12 at night, where I'm basically, no matter what I do during the day, I'm going to kind of write it off.
Even as a teenager, I couldn't. Like you get a lot of teenagers that will sleep all day and up all night. I was never ever like that. I was always up early or early-ish, and then because I don't like to waste a day, and I've always been like that. And now my 2 boys are exactly the same. They get up early, and they don't go to their bed like through the night or whatever else. They're up early. They go to their bed at a certain time, get up at a certain time, and it's not even with alarms. The youngest, he wakes up naturally. The older one, he's got alarms for work. But I've just never been one to waste a day.
I've wasted plenty of days, but not anymore. And that's why that's one of the reasons I'm very excited about life right now, and that's why I get up early. I have in college, during those days where I was, living, 18 to 21, or I was sleeping until noon when I was at home on Christmas break and stuff like that, and and certainly doing that sometimes on the weekends at school. And so I was a late nighter, and now I don't even like to do the late night thing anymore. I don't like late night TV. I don't like anything about the late night. I don't like going out to bars late at night anymore. I don't like any of that stuff.
It's all different as well. Yeah. And I think people's mentality now is different from probably when we would go out drinking years gone by, like 20 years ago or whatever. Everybody's different. Because I think the years gone by, there was more fun. Like, you didn't have camera smartphones where you had to hide from. People weren't as, and I don't like to say this, but I suppose pretentious. There's a lot of pretentiousness in the world. Everybody's got to be Instagram perfect, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. Okay. That's just not the way I live my life. And if you do, then that's fine, because that's obviously what makes you happy, but that's just not how. So I wouldn't enjoy a night out anymore, or as much as what I did back in the day.
I don't enjoy nights out very much. I mean, there's not a whole lot of nightlife around here, but there's enough. And when I go out, sometimes I go see some live music around 10 o'clock at night, and inevitably an hour later I'm ready to go home. And, it's just like, I've had it. I'm out. I got out of the house. That's good enough for me. I'm not drinking. I'm not really socializing, and I'm just kind of. I'm socializing. It's not the same as it was when I was.
It's almost like just going through the motions, isn't it?
Yes. Like, you don't want to be the party pooper. You don't want to say no every time.
Yeah.
No, I really don't want to do that. I'm starting to get better at it. It's like, no, honestly, I wouldn't have that much fun. I'm not going to do it. I mean, no offense, I wouldn't have that much fun.
Yeah.
I'd have more fun reading a book or whatever I wanted to do.
More fun going to work.
Yeah. I mean, now I just work. I mean, my whole life. I mean, that's how it should be as an adult, I guess. Is, basically your life revolves. Well, I don't have family. You've got family. So
this is the thing, isn't it? It's all down to your surroundings and what makes you happy. And what makes you happy makes you happy. And nobody can change that. Nobody can tell you, well, that can't make you happy. If it makes you happy, it makes you happy, and that's it.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be a workaholic, and I'm not a workaholic, but I work a lot more than I thought I would.
But then it's the age-old saying of, if you find a job you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that's the point where I've got to now, because I enjoy everything I do. So I don't actually feel as if I'm working.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. I've only had a few jobs that I've liked through the years. I've had a lot of different jobs. But I like writing. I've always liked writing, even though I don't want to just be a writer. It's too much. But I enjoy the property. I do short-term rental property management. So it's not like I just, I have I have guests that I have to take care of, and I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I enjoy helping people. I mean, helping people have a good time on their vacation. I take it as seriously as I can, without taking it too seriously. I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I'm surprised. I never would have thought this would have been my career path, but I do enjoy it. I think I'll stick with it. Why would I not?
That's good. That's amazing.
That is amazing. If you knew my life, that is amazing.
So what I was going to say is, if you send me over everything, I'll advertise everything for you on my social media, on websites and things like that. So if you want whatever books you want advertised, send that over. If you want your rental company advertised as well, for if anybody's going on holiday, then send that over, and we'll get everything put up for you. And hopefully people enjoy your books and enjoy coming on holiday.
I would love for you to promote my books. It's really the promoting of the real estate really wouldn't really. I'm looking for more clients more than I'm looking for vacationers. I'm looking to represent people. I'm kind of in that mode. I'm still early on. There will be a day where I'd love.
Well, if you ever change your mind, you can send it. Yeah. If you ever change your mind, just send over the email. You can just send it all over. But no, it's been absolutely lovely talking to you. It's been nice hearing somebody else's perspective of mental health and how they've gone through the journey and how it's changed their life, I suppose, in a sense, and how you see life differently and what works for you, because not everybody's going to sit down and say, I'm going to write a book and that's going to help me get through traumas or whatever else it may be.
My goal with this book is, I mean, I could probably, I don't know. My goal is to write this book, and it pretty much confirms that I'm crazier than crazy. I mean, most of the book is off medication. Most of the book is not when I'm on medication doing fairly well. I may skim over a couple paragraphs. Yeah, I did this, that, and the other, and that was good. But I forget what I was going to say. But but about writing. Yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
So you were talking about the book that you're writing just now.
Yes. Yes, this book is very important to me. But yes, I know what I was going to say. And this is really what I do. I don't tell many people this because it's kind of obnoxious. But I want to write this book. The book is written as honest as I can. And I want people to look at me and go, this person has severe mental illness and he still had a successful, as normal of a life as
of course
the average person. Nothing's normal, but I'm functioning. I'm out there. I'm in relationships. I'm holding jobs. I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah,
and I want to be more of an example.
Yeah,
I hope. I mean, that's the goal. That's the dream. What it is in Europe, just like in the United States, it's all. I mean, there's so much crap going on around here. It's crazy.
I know. I've been watching it online. It's heartbreaking to watch. It really is heartbreaking. I remember telling my mum that I was going to write the book that I'm writing just now and kind of giving her an idea, and she just went, "Oh God."
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, just wait till you read the book.
Well, I tell you what, you're talking about the upset OCD. Yeah, I do have. I have those 4 books, and in my real estate, but I don't have many other hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I follow the news. I do like to follow the news, and I'm kind of a nerd about politics. And most of my friends aren't, but that's just kind of my thing. But I don't watch movies very often. I read books.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever watch TV other than sports and news.
Mm-hmm.
I mean. I've narrowed my life down as best I can.
That's it. You've got your things that you know what you like.
Yes.
You know what you like and what you don't like. And that's the most important thing. And that's all any of us can kind of give ourselves, is make sure we're doing the right things for ourselves and not for everybody else.
That was a big problem for me, is doing things wanting to do these things for other people. Wanting to be
people
this person
pleasing
for other people. Yeah, I just want to be somebody I wasn't. And now I'm very comfortable. Very comfortable doing exactly what I am doing. I think I'm pretty good at it, and I'm reasonably happy. I got a dog, and we have a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
I know.
It's been a long road, though.
Well,
all I can say is to people, take your medication. And
yes,
if you're not
exactly.
doing well on your medication, consider that you may be misdiagnosed or that you may be on the wrong medication, because there's a lot of medication out there these days. This is a golden age 50 years ago.
I've had mine changed so many times over the years. And if it's not been changed, they've maybe had to up the dosage or whatever else. You just have to, you get to a point where you learn what's working for you and what isn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I took Zyprexa for 10 years. And I thought it was working, and then I got on Abilify, and my whole life changed.
Mm-hmm. And it just goes to show.
Yeah, and they are very comparable drugs. They're very comparable drugs. I mean, to the layman, I don't know what their compounds are, but their chemical compounds are. But they're treated for the same kind of things. And but Abilify's made a wonder. Of course, Zyprexa, I slept 8 hours a night. Now I sleep 4, but take this with the other.
I know, you take the wins and the losses, don't you? It's like
you really do.
What's better?
You learn to take the wins and losses.
Yeah.
Optimize with yourself.
So we'll leave it at that, because that's been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
I really enjoyed this.
Just remember, send me everything over that you want advertised, and I'd love to have you back on again when you write your new book, once it's published and it's out there.
You talk about the Stoic Alcoholic?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that'd be a good one for here too. Yeah. Yes, that'd be very good, because I write about mental illness. I try to stay away from mental illness in that book a little bit, but it is definitely mentioned. I can't get away.
Yeah, I try,
But I try to make it more alcohol oriented.
Yeah, although the podcast is primarily about mental health, I like to talk about all different things just to do with life in general. So anything that anybody wants to come on and talk about is absolutely fine.
Great.
But no, it's been lovely having you, and it's been
Yes,
so
ma'am.
easy to talk to you as well.
Yeah, it's been great. It's
Yeah.
been fun.
Give me 2
I've
seconds.
done a couple of these, and this is my best one yet. My favorite one yet.
You're such a flatterer. Why are you single?
I'm a people pleaser.
Same.
But no, this has been nice.
Yeah, no, it has. It's been absolutely lovely. But I'm sure. What did you say? It was snowing there yesterday.
It was snowing on what was it, morning Sunday. They're like, I saw like 4 or 5 flakes.
Yeah,
I took a
that's
video.
right. You said that you saw like a couple of flakes.
Saw a few flakes, and I took like a 10-second video. I was like, you have to look close, but we are getting snow.
Because we're in Scotland, obviously, and we normally get more snow than England, but we didn't really get the snow this year. They got it all, and I was like, well, they can keep it. They can just keep it in there. I don't want it. It's absolutely fine by me.
Well, I just heard yesterday, I was talking to somebody that out, Colorado, the ski mountains out in the middle and the western part of this country, apparently they hadn't had much snow this year. And they're really,
funny,
the ski slopes are struggling because there's no snow.
Yeah. I know, it's you don't realise, and I blame Greta Gunberg or whatever her name is. I blame her for everything. Anything to do with the weather, it's her fault. She started it. But yeah, give me 2 seconds, I'll just pause it. So that was Benton. He was absolutely lovely. It was so easy to chat away to him. I was a bit worried that he wouldn't understand everything I was saying, so sometimes I try and slow down because I know that Scottish people do talk quite fast sometimes, and so hopefully there wasn't too much of a struggle. I know there was a couple of technical difficulties there where I don't know if it was his internet or mine. It froze a few times, but hopefully you've all enjoyed what we did manage to get out of it. We spoke after we recorded, and he's hopefully going to come on and talk about his new book that he's hopefully going to finish in February. I'm not sure when it'll be out, but I've asked him to keep in touch with me. Email me, let me know everything, and we'll get it all out to you, because there's going to be somebody that will benefit from reading the book. He's going to send me over the links for all these other books as well. I'm definitely going to order them, have a look and see what he's wrote. Because I'm nosy as well, apart from anything else. I like to know other people's business. But yeah, let me know what you thought of this episode, and if you can suggest anybody else that might want to come on, either get them email in or give me their name and I'll contact them, and we'll see where this goes. But I've got another author coming on. I've not got her date yet. I'm going to read her book. I need to finish reading her book before she comes on. But yeah, it looks like 2026 is going to be busy, and we're going to have some good episodes. Next week it'll just be me, myself, and I. So I'm sorry if you were looking for another guest next week, but I think next week's just me. But for now, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, look out for each other. As you know, I have the therapy business, so if anybody does want to book in or even just ask for some advice, write into either the podcast, rebootyourthoughts@gmail.com. Reboot Your Thoughts podcast at gmail.com. You can write into any of the social media pages. So we've got Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram. Reboot Your Thoughts podcast. Or you can go on and get all the details for all the therapies, etc. that we offer on therebootsanctuary.com. But for now, I'm going to go edit this, and it will be up Wednesday the 21st, 7 p.m. All going well. And I'll speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.